Chapter 8. I can't stop myself from yawning as Mrs. Solomon hands out the maths test papers. It turned out Grandad hadn't thrown the TV out the window, but just tripped on the living room rug when he was trying to take a closer look at United's first goal. Falling forward, he grabbed hold of the TV to try and save himself, but only managed to pull it off the wall. That was the sound of the breaking glass that we'd heard, and the swearing was when Grandad landed in his hands first. So Mum, me and Charlie ended up spending 3 hours in A&E last night, waiting for doctors to sew Grandad's cuts on his hand back up. Charlie had spent most of the time curled up asleep in Mum's arms, while Grandad tried to impress the nurses with his stories about Death Panda's world tours and the time he'd ended up in hospital in Texas when a stage pyrotechnic set his spandex trousers on fire. Finally, the nurses took Grandad away to shut him up, and when he got back, both his hands were completely wrapped in bandages. Nothing serious, the nurse told Mum, when she looked at these aghast. He just needs to avoid any physical activities that will put strain on the stitches. The nurse turned back to Grandad. Make an appointment with the nurse at your local surgery to take the stitches out in a week's time. What about playing my guitar? Grandad protested. No guitar for a week, the nurse replied sternly. You need to give your hands time to heal. So even though I wasted most of Tuesday evening in a hospital waiting room, it wasn't all bad news. I only wish I'd remembered to take my equations worksheet with me so I could have revised for this test. Now, there's 45 minutes until break, so try and answer every question, Mrs. Solomon says, walking back to the front of the classroom, as next to me Minty mimes throwing up all over her test paper. And remember, no calculators. It's important that you know how to balance these equations in your head. Don't forget the Apollo 13 astronauts had to use mental arithmetic to work out the calculations they needed to get their damaged spacecraft back to Earth. Our teacher puts on her most serious expression. You know, you never know when an equation might save your life. Feeling doubtful, I looked down at the first question on the sheet in front of me. Find the value of y. Show your work. A. 23 plus y equals 16 times 4. My heart sinks. I tried to think back to the revision sheet, what the revision sheet said about how to balance an equation, but all that really sticks in my head is what Professor Forster told me about the Drake equation, how there could be 10,000 alien civilizations in our galaxy, and we're just waiting for them to pick up the phone. I've probably got more chance of a Martian calling me up on my mobile than I have of finding out the value of y. I wish I could use a calculator. At the front of the class, Mrs. Solomon is now sitting behind her desk, starting to mark a huge pile of exercise books as the rest of the class begin scribbling their answers. From where I'm sitting, I'm almost out of her sight. This gives me an idea. Keeping one eye on my teacher, I slowly slide my mobile phone out of my pocket. I might not get the internet without any Wi-Fi, but at least it's got a calculator. I tap the screen to bring the phone to life. The first thing I notice is that the weird spiral icon is now taking up half of the home screen. It's likely it's grown overnight. The golden spiral spinning silently as my jaw drops in surprise. With Grandad's accident last night, I didn't have the chance to find out what this is. I click on the spiral to try and drag it out of the way, but with a low buzz of protest, the icon stays fixed to the screen. I touch the icon again, pressing hard and swiping, all at the same time, but no matter what I do, it just won't move at all. There's a strange tingle in my finger, but I've not got time to worry about that now. I just have to concentrate on answering these test questions first. Tapping the apps list, I open up the calculator. If I want to find out the value of y, then I need to work out the other half of this equation. I tap in the sum, 16 times 4, and press the equal sign. The answer appears on the screen straight away. 0. That's not right. I might not be that hot at mental arithmetic, but even I know that 16 times 4 doesn't equal 0. I try to press clear, but the number just stays on the screen. Then another number appears next to this, followed by another, and a whole string of numbers slowly filling the screen. 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, 55, 89, 144, 233, 377, 610, 987, and so on. The numbers just keep coming at me, each one bigger than the last, and no matter which button I press, they won't go away. First, that weird golden spiral thing, and now this. My mobile phone has officially lost it. I jab my finger at the screen again, but the phone just buzzes angrily. Then I hear a pointed cough and look up to see Mrs. Solomon staring disapprovingly in my direction. Put it away, Jamie, she says, the tone of her voice now suddenly stern. No calculators or mobile phones are to be used in today's test. Next to me, Minty snickers. Feeling my face flush, I slip the mobile back into my pocket. My stupid phone won't even let me cheat without giving me away. As Mrs. Solomon keeps her gaze fixed in my direction, I turn my attention back to the test paper. But as I look again at the first question, something seems to click inside my brain. I feel a faint buzz behind my eyes, almost as if someone has flicked a switch on, and as I stare at the equation, I suddenly realise that I know the right answer. Y equals 41. Quickly writing this down, I glance at the rest of the equations on the page. Moments before I thought that these looked impossible, but now each one of them makes perfect sense to me. I can't write the answers down quickly enough. Turn the test sheet over, I take a look at the last question. Now, create your own equation. Usually this type of question throws me, but now I don't even pause to think as the perfect equation pops into my head. It's so simple, I can't stop myself and smile as I start to write the answer out. And then he writes a very complicated equation out. Very complicated. As the bell rings for break, my pen jumps in surprise, leaving the trail of 3 dots at the end of the line. I feel like this test has only just started, but somehow it's break time already. I shake my head. It feels like I'm waking from a dream. For the first time I notice that Minty is staring at me in disbelief, and I look down at our desk, my side of it covered with half a dozen pieces of paper, some of these spilling off the edge and falling onto the floor. I don't know where these had come from, but every page is filled in hundreds of letters, symbols and numbers. A second ago everything seemed so clear, but now as I stare down at the scribbled pages they don't seem to make any sense at all. "Okay," Mrs. Solomon says, looking up as she closes the last of the exercise books on her desk. "Hand in your test papers to me, and I'll see you after break for next week's Space Week challenge." For your next Space Week challenge. Feeling confused, I quickly gather up the scattered pages before Mrs. Solomon notices them, shoving them into my bag. I just keep hold of the topmost sheet, handing this to my teacher as I head for the door. "Well done, Jamie," Mrs. Solomon says as she glances down at the test paper, her features creased in an encouraging smile. "It was good to see you trying so hard at the end. You see, you don't need a mobile phone to help you with your maths, do you?" I shake my head, trying to ignore the new buzzing vibrations from the depths of my pocket. Whatever just happened, I feel certain it's got something to do with the weird new icon on my phone.